Hello, this is Miss McCauley, and I will be helping you convert a fraction to a percent and a percent to a fraction.
What we're going to do now is convert fractions to percents. We've already converted fractions to decimals. Now we're going to convert fractions to percents. It's actually really, really easy. One of the easiest things you'll learn this year. So just bear with me. Please write these down. You should already have this loaded in GoodNotes, okay? All right, the first thing you're really going to think about here is how do we get from a fraction to a percent? To me, the easiest way is to take your fraction. Okay, so I'm going to write a fraction in the first box. Take your fraction, convert it to a decimal. And that's really easy, right? We just use our calculator and divide the numerator by the denominator. And then convert your decimal to a percent, which is very easy. We just add a percent sign. So let's do an example. For example, let's take the fraction, an easy one that we've used before. Let's use 3/4.
Okay, we are going to do 3/4. Now, you already have had practice converting 3/4 from a fraction to a decimal, but I will show you again just so that we make sure that we're clear and have a review. Remember, like Mrs. Graham always says, top topples in. So this goes in the house and is divided by the denominator. Okay, add your decimal and a 0 and divide. 4 cannot go into 3, so we simply move over and say how many times does 4 go into 30? That is 7 times. Decimal goes straight up to the roof. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract 2 left over. Cannot have remainders anymore in 6th grade. Add a 0, bring it down. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. We are done. This is the decimal. However, we're trying to get from a fraction. This is the fraction. This is the decimal. We want to get to a percent. Remember, to go from a decimal to percent, we simply bump our decimal 2 places to the right because we're going from D to P, and we now have 75%.
So step 1 is convert fraction to decimal. Step 2 is remove decimal, add percent sign. Add percent sign. Easy enough. Okay, not hard at all. Okay. And there is another way that you can do this, and fractions are really I'm sorry, not fractions. Percents are numbers that are out of 100. So, like for example, when you get a grade on a test, you might get 90%. That means you got 90 out of 100 right, or that percentage of numbers. So, for example, if we took, let's say, for example, you had a homework assignment and it was worth 10 points, and you got an 8 out of 10 on your homework. Let me erase that 8. It's kind of messy. Let me write it again. Let's say you got an 8 out of 10 on your homework, and you want to know what percent that is. Okay. Another easy way to do this, you could convert it to a decimal, which is 0.8, and then change that to 80%. Okay. But you can also think this equals what equivalent fraction can you make with 100 in the denominator? 10 times 10 is 100, so 8 times 10 is 80. And that means that it's 80 out of 100, or 80%. Okay, pretty easy, right? Not hard at all. Okay, let's do another example of that. Let's take 4 out of 5. A lot of you are familiar with 4 out of 5 on a homework assignment. How could we convert that? Well, we can convert it to hundreds. Okay, so let's make an equivalent fraction with 100 in the bottom. 5 times 20 equals 100, and 4 times 20 equals 80, which is the same thing, 80%. Okay. So basically, the easiest ways to do this are to use equivalent fractions with hundreds in your denominator, or to convert to a decimal and then convert your decimal, or add a percent sign to your decimal.
One thing I want to make very clear is when you change from a decimal to a percent, I keep saying to add the percent sign, but don't forget you always still need to bump those two places like we learned in decimals to percents.
Okay. Now let's go the other direction. We have to go from a percent to a fraction. And when we're talking about percents, the magic number is always 100. Okay, so 100 is our magic number. That just means that all percents are numbers out of 100 or fractions out of 100. So let's just take the opposite direction and say 40%. And we want to convert that into a fraction. All we do is, the first step is drop the percent sign. Drop the percent sign. So then it becomes 40. And we write it over 100. Right over 100. So 40 100ths. And then I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. And then simplify, which equals, divide both of them by 20, and you will get 2/5. 2/5 equals 40 out of 100, or 40%. Okay, so let's write the steps a little bit more clearly over here, where we have a little bit more space. So to go from percent to fraction. Okay, first step is drop the percent sign. Drop the percent sign. 2, place the number in a fraction with a denominator of 100. And then the third step is always with fractions to simplify. Okay. Let's do another example now that we know our steps. And let's take, actually, you know what, let me go back a little bit and let you make sure that you have that. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of time there, and you can go ahead and make sure you have that, and then we'll do another example. Percents are really important. In case you already didn't know, percents we use all the time in real world. We use them to find out the discount on things. We use them to figure out tips when we go to a restaurant or get our hair cut, anything like that. It's probably one of the most common things that you will use with math. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do an example. Okay, I'm going to bring this problem over here, and let's take a percent. Let's take, how about, we want to take, let's see, how about we do this? Let's do 120%. Let's say you did a bunch of extra credit, and you got 120% on your test. How are we going to convert that into a fraction? Okay, step 1, drop the percent sign, and we get 120. Okay, and then we're going to take that and put it in a fraction with 120 with a denominator of 100. And then we simplify. If we simplify 120 over 100, I'm going to do my cake method. I'm going to divide both by 20, the greatest common factor. 20 goes into 120 6 times and into 105 times. So I end up with 6 over 5, or, sorry, this is a little messy. Let me erase that. I don't like that. Use a thinner pen and a different color maybe so you can see. This ends up 6 over 5, which equals 1 1/5 is our fraction, a mixed number. Okay, so I'm going to write a note here. All percents over 100% are mixed numbers because they are greater than one whole. 100% is one whole. Let's write that too because I think it's really important. Let's write that maybe down at the bottom. Let's write 100% equals one whole. Very important fact to know. Okay, I hope you guys have these notes.